My name is Riley. I'm 29 years old. And at this year's Thanksgiving, my mother looked right at me and said, "Your sister's wedding was great. So when's yours?" I smiled. But it wasn't the happy kind of smile. It was the kind of smile that's been rehearsed 1,000 times in front of bathroom mirrors when you're trying not to scream. It was the kind of smile you give when you've been invisible your entire life and you've finally accepted that maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to be seen. I said, "Ask my husband. You got the invitations." And the entire room froze. Chairs stopped moving. Forks hung midair like someone had pressed pause on reality. My dad's face went white. My mother's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again like a fish gasping for air. And Emily, perfect, golden Emily, she looked at me like I'd just detonated a bomb in the middle of her spotlight. Dad whispered, his voice cracking, "We never got any invitations." And that's when I pulled them out. Slowly. Deliberately. The signed delivery receipts. Every single one. All with Emily's signature on them. Before I continue, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to tell you, it hurts. It hurts in ways I'm still trying to understand. Let me take you back. Way back. To when I was a kid and I still believed that maybe, one day, they'd see me. I grew up in a house where everything, and I mean everything, revolved around Emily. Emily the golden child. Emily the perfect daughter. Emily who could do no wrong, who shined so bright that I became nothing more than a shadow on the wall. When Emily brought home an A, there were celebrations. Dinners out. Facebook posts. Phone calls to relatives. When I brought home straight A's? Silence. Or worse, "That's nice, honey. Now go help your sister with her project." Because Emily always needed help. Emily always needed attention. Emily always needed more. My birthdays were forgotten. Not once. Not twice. But so many times I stopped counting after 12. I'd wake up hoping, God, I was so stupid for hoping, that maybe this year they'd remember. That maybe this year there'd be a cake, or a card, or just someone saying, "Happy birthday, Riley." But there was always something else. Emily had a recital. Emily had a game. Emily had a moment and I needed to understand. I always needed to understand. I was the one who was supposed to be mature, reasonable, selfless. I was the one who had to shrink myself down into nothing so Emily could expand into everything. Thanksgiving was the worst. Every single year, the entire day revolved around Emily's life. Emily's achievements. Emily's boyfriend. Emily's plans. Emily's dreams. I'd sit at that table, fork in hand, and I'd count the minutes until someone, anyone, would ask me a single question about my life. They never did. I learned to be quiet. I learned to be small. I learned that love in my family was a finite resource, and Emily had claimed all of it before I even had a chance to ask for a drop. I was the invisible daughter. The afterthought. The one they'd remember to mention when someone asked, "Oh, don't you have another daughter?" And my mother would blink, like she was surprised by the question, and say, "Oh yes, Riley. She's around." Around. Like I was a piece of furniture. Like I was something they'd forgotten in the attic. So I left. I moved out the second I could afford to. I moved across the state and I built a life that was mine. It was quiet. It was small. But it was mine. No spotlight. No competition. No more begging for crumbs of attention from people who'd already decided I wasn't worth the effort. And then I met Daniel. Daniel, who asked me questions and actually listened to the answers. Daniel, who remembered the stories I told him. Daniel, who looked at me like I was someone worth seeing. His family was different too. The first time I went to dinner at his parents' house, I almost cried. Because his mother asked me about my job. And his father asked me about my hobbies. And his sister asked me about my childhood, and when I hesitated, because I didn't know how to talk about it without sounding bitter, she just smiled and said, "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Like I mattered. Like I wasn't just taking up space that should have been reserved for someone better. And then we decided to get married. Daniel and I. We wanted something small. Something intimate. Something that felt like us. I sent the invitations to my family. I triple-checked the addresses. I paid extra for signature-required delivery because I wanted to make sure they got them. I wanted proof. I needed proof. Because somewhere, deep down, I knew. I knew they'd find a way to make this about them. To make this about Emily. But I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that surely, they wouldn't miss my wedding. That even if they didn't care about me, they'd at least show up for appearances. For the family photo. For the chance to tell their friends that both daughters were married now. I tracked those packages obsessively. I watched as every single one was marked, delivered. I watched as every single one was marked, signed for. And then the wedding day came. I stood in that small venue, in a dress I'd chosen by myself, surrounded by Daniel's family and our friends. And I waited. I kept glancing at the door, thinking maybe they were just late. Maybe they got stuck in traffic. Maybe they'd walk in any second with some excuse that I'd forgive because I was so desperate to forgive them. They never showed up. Not my mother. Not my father. Not Emily. Not even a text message. Not even a, "Sorry, we can't make it." Nothing. I smiled through the ceremony. I smiled through the reception. I smiled through every single moment because I didn't want to ruin Daniel's day. I didn't want him to see how much it hurt. How much I was breaking inside. But when we got home that night, I locked myself in the bathroom and I sobbed. I sobbed so hard I thought I was going to shatter into 1,000 pieces that could never be put back together. And then I did what I always do. I made excuses for them. Maybe the invitations got lost. Maybe there was some kind of mix-up. Maybe they didn't realize how important it was. Maybe. For months, I lied to myself. Because the truth was too painful to admit. But Daniel wouldn't let me keep lying. One night, he sat me down and he said, "Riley, we need to check something." We pulled up the email invitation I'd sent as a backup. The one with the date and time and location. The one I'd sent to their family email address. And we checked the access logs. Someone had opened it. Someone had read it. And then someone had deleted it. Permanently removed it from their inbox. The device ID matched Emily's laptop. And those delivery receipts? The ones that showed signed for? They were all signed by Emily. Emily had intercepted every single invitation. Emily had opened them, read them, and destroyed them. Emily had made sure our family never knew about my wedding. Emily had erased me. Deliberately. Intentionally. Cruelly. I wasn't forgotten. I was sabotaged. And in that moment, something inside me broke. But it wasn't the sad kind of broken. It was the kind of broken that happens when you've been holding on to something so tightly that when it finally snaps, you realize you're free. So when Thanksgiving rolled around this year, I made a choice. I decided to go. Not because I wanted to. But because I needed them to know. I needed them to see what they'd done. I walked into that house and it was exactly like every other Thanksgiving. Emily was glowing. Radiant. Fresh off her wedding, which apparently was the event of the century. My mother couldn't stop talking about it. The flowers. The venue. The dress. The guests. Nobody asked me a single thing. Not how I was doing. Not what I'd been up to. Not if I was seeing anyone. I was invisible. Again. And then my mother tapped her glass. She stood up, wine in hand, and she looked right at me with this patronizing smile that made my skin crawl. "Your sister's wedding was great," she said, like she was bestowing some kind of blessing on me. "So when's yours?" The room went quiet. Emily was smiling. That smug, self-satisfied smile she always had when she thought she'd won. I smiled back. That same rehearsed smile I'd perfected over 29 years. "Ask my husband," I said. My voice was calm. Steady. "You got the invitations." Silence. Complete and total silence. My dad's face went pale. We never got any invitations," he stammered. And that's when I reached into my bag. Slowly. Calmly. I pulled out the folder I'd been carrying with me. The one with every single delivery receipt. Every tracking number. Every signature. I placed them on the table, one by one, like I was laying down cards in a poker game I'd already won. "These are the delivery confirmations," I said. "Signature required. All delivered. All signed for." I looked at Emily. Her face had gone white. "All signed by Emily." The mask cracked. I watched it happen in real time. The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened and closed. She started stammering, trying to come up with an excuse, some explanation that would make this okay. I didn't, I thought. But there was no explanation. No excuse. No way to spin this into something that didn't make her look like exactly what she was, someone so desperate to be the center of attention that she destroyed her own sister's life to keep it. My mother tried to defend her. Of course she did. Emily wouldn't do that. There must be some mistake. "There's no mistake," I said. My voice was shaking now. Not with sadness. With rage. With 29 years of rage that I'd swallowed down and smiled through and pretended didn't exist. I checked the email logs too. She opened the invitation. She read it. She deleted it. She made sure none of you knew. My father's face collapsed. I watched decades of denial crumble in his eyes. Because he knew. Deep down, he'd always known. They all had. Emily started crying. Big, dramatic tears. The kind she'd always used to get her way. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I didn't mean to, I was scared." "Scared of what?" I demanded. My voice was louder now. Angrier. "Scared that for one day, one single day, the attention wouldn't be on you? Scared that I might actually matter to them?" She didn't answer. She just kept crying. My mother reached for her hand. Still. Even now. Still choosing Emily. And that's when I stood up. I stood up and I said everything I'd been holding in for 29 years. "Do you know what it's like to beg for love from people who are supposed to give it freely?" My voice was shaking. "Do you know what it's like to watch your own family celebrate your sister's every breath while you disappear into the background? I begged for your attention. I begged for you to see me. I begged for you to care. And you never did. Not once." My mother tried to speak. "Riley, that's not." "Don't," I said. "Don't you dare tell me that's not true." Because I lived it. I lived every birthday you forgot. Every achievement you ignored. Every moment you chose her over me. And I told myself it was okay. I told myself that maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I was asking for too much. Maybe I just needed to try harder to earn your love. But I was married 6 months ago. 6 months. And you didn't miss my wedding because you didn't know about it. You missed it because Emily made sure you didn't know. And none of you even noticed I was gone. You didn't call. You didn't text. You didn't ask why I wasn't coming around. Because you didn't even realize I wasn't there. Emily was still crying. My mother's voice was trembling. "We're sorry," she whispered. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said. There's a difference. My father finally spoke. His voice was broken. Riley, please. We can fix this. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I saw a man who'd spent my entire life choosing the easy path. Choosing to keep the peace. Choosing to let me suffer in silence so he didn't have to face the truth about his family. You can't fix this, I said quietly. Because this isn't something that broke. This is something you built. Year after year after year. You built a family where I didn't matter. Where Emily was everything and I was nothing. And I'm done. I'm done fighting for a place in a family that erased me. I walked out. I put on my coat, I grabbed my bag, and I walked out of that house. Emily was still crying. My mother was calling after me. My father was standing there, frozen, like he didn't know what to do. But I didn't look back. Daniel was waiting outside. He'd stayed in the car because he knew. He knew what I was walking into and he knew I needed to do it alone. When I got in the car, he didn't ask me if I was okay. He just held me. And I cried. But this time, it wasn't the kind of crying that breaks you. It was the kind of crying that frees you. We spent the next morning with his family. They welcomed us with warmth I'd never known. They asked how I was doing. They made space for me at the table. They saw me. And I realized something. Family isn't about blood. It's not about who you're born to. It's about who chooses you. Who sees you. Who makes space for you in their life. For 29 years, I fought to be seen by people who never wanted to see me. But I'm done fighting. In the weeks after Thanksgiving, Emily sent me a long email. She said she was in therapy. She said she was sorry. She said she was working on herself. I read it. But I didn't respond. Because her apology doesn't undo 29 years. It doesn't give me back my wedding day. It doesn't give me back the childhood I should have had. My father has been trying to reach out. Slowly. Respectfully. He sends texts every few days. Nothing pushy. Just letting me know he's there if I want to talk. I haven't responded yet. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I won't. My mother? She hasn't said a word. And honestly? Her silence is finally an answer. After all these years of pretending, of making excuses, of defending Emily no matter what, her silence tells me everything I need to know. And you know what? I feel lighter. I feel freer. I feel like I can finally breathe without waiting for someone to tell me I'm taking up too much air. I'm not leaving the family. I'm leaving the story where I never mattered. And I'm writing a new one. One where I'm seen. One where I'm valued. One where I'm loved not because I earned it or begged for it, but because I exist. If any part of this feels familiar, tell me where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your story below. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: you're not alone. And you don't have to keep fighting for people who refuse to see you. You deserve better. You always did.